Welcome to the Sanity Project podcast, the place for internet technology professionals whose work-life balance plan has imploded. We are here to provide solutions that will help the IT pro live a sane, healthy, and prosperous life. Here's your host, Joanne Victoria.
Hi, this is Joanne Victoria with another episode of the Sanity Project podcast. I am the I Know What Works coach. I'm a speaker and author of 7 books. 2 of my best sellers are Lighting Your Path, How to Create the Life You Want, and Pushing for a Moment, Instant Solutions to Everyday Challenges. For my listeners, I want you to know that I bring guests to you that can help you in every area of your life so that you can have a sane, healthy, prosperous, peaceful life. Our guest today is Resa Shore. Resa received her MBA and started her career in the corporate world. Resa ran a successful marketing and design business for over 20 years. As an entrepreneur, money issues became of particular interest, coupled with the impact of childhood money experiences, which she talks about on her website, by the way, which is called yourmoneyhealth.com. Resa became a certified money coach. She has been helping people change their lives ever since. She's a born problem solver and possesses an unusual mix of strong intuitive ability and concrete sequential thinking that makes her empathetic yet laser focused on the realities of personal finance. Resa works with clients individually, both remotely and in person. Her clients experience profound changes in their lives when they take control of their own money. Welcome to the show, Resa Shore. How are you today?
I'm fine, Joanne. Thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Well, I look forward to this because I know that people don't know enough about money, because if they did, they would handle it a lot better. And the people that are listening to this show, by and large, make 6-figure incomes. And they're left with very little to either invest or save or do anything with, because it sometimes can be overwhelming. How can you help our information technology professionals be more successful with money?
Well, I think I can, at least today, I can give them a summary of how I can help them. But if they take this to heart, they absolutely can be helped. The one thing that I know, and you said that your listeners are mostly 6-figure incomes, I can tell you from experience that no matter how successful people are, no matter how much money they make, they have oftentimes problems with money. And the thing that seems to be a consistent element of my clients is that they're really embarrassed about what their money situation is. And I try to impart on them the knowledge that, as opposed to being unusual, that they're actually the majority. So I think that as a money coach, I can really help these people figure out what's going on with them and how to make their lives better. So that's how I can help people. One of the things that I wanted to start off with here is to explain to your listeners what a money coach is, because most people have no idea. They know what a financial advisor is, they know what a financial planner is, or they have heard those terms. But a money coach is a little different. A money coach actually helps people in their day-to-day lives of figuring out what their money situation is. We help people to look at their emotional, the emotional aspects that they're dealing with that drive unhealthy behaviors. And unhealthy behaviors causes so much of the stress that people really are dealing with. We try to understand the root of this bad behavior and then look at money on a day-to-day basis. How do we fix it? What can we do to make life better? Now, with a financial planner, financial advisor, their focus is going to be retirement planning. if you already have money saved up and you're well on your way to all of the positive things that we want to do with money, and a financial advisor will help with planning your retirement, what your estate plans are going to need to look like, all of that kind of thing. And so, but they don't deal with people on a day-to-day basis. A financial coach or a money coach is more like a personal trainer or a money therapist for that matter. So those are the differences between a money coach and a financial advisor.
That sounds great. And when you're talking about emotional aspects, people say, many do, say that the lack of money as opposed to how to deal with the money that they do get. But the lack of even having a skill to define where their money goes is totally emotionally based. Do you agree with that?
I believe that how much money you have is, let's put it this way. The studies show that the more money you have does not correlate with happiness. It also shows that if you don't have enough money for your basic needs, if you can't pay your rent and pay your food and go on an occasional vacation, yes, that causes unhappiness. But you would be shocked at how much money people have and still have enormous problems and anxiety around money. So my experience is that it doesn't matter how much money you have, it's these emotional issues that really drive the problems that you're having around money. So most people that don't have a lot of money think that the more they get, and actually even people with money think that the more they get, that will solve their money problems, but it just doesn't. So it is the emotional drivers that cause a lot of these unhealthy behaviors.
So do you help people, I'll just put it in quotes, find money that they can invest or find money that they can save? Because I listen to shows on the radio and apparently people don't know where their money goes. Do you help them with that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I have, and then I'm going to talk about this today. There's really 5 strategies that I could, put out here for your listeners to really change their financial life. And the very first one is getting clarity. And this ties right with what you're asking me. Most people that are struggling don't have any idea where their money's going, or they're not really sure how much they're spending in their credit cards. If you don't have clarity around your money, there's absolutely no way that you can solve any of your financial problems or plan for the future. And save. So if you have clarity around your money, then you've got that extra money in there to save, to do the things that you need to do. So my first recommendation for anybody in getting clarity around the money is to do some kind of a budget. People hate the word budget. Every time I say that to people, you can just see them cringe. But the fact is that they view budgeting as a restriction on their spending, and ironically, it's just the opposite. So if you can do a spending plan, I like to call it spending plan, not budget. But if you can do a spending plan, project what you're going to spend throughout the month, and then track it. So there's 2 aspects of it. If you plan it and you actually track it, then you have a real clear idea of how much money you have, and then you can prioritize. You can decide what you want to do. Most people do budgets, and they have real negative experiences with budgets, because what they do is they say, okay, here's how much money I need to spend on my electricity, on my rent, or whatever. They write it down. They get to the end of the month. They haven't looked at it from the time they started till the end of the month. And they just go, oh, hell, I'm over budget now. And that is definitely not going to, definitely not going to help. Excuse me, one moment. That's not going to help them in their future. So what they've got to do is be able to track on an ongoing basis how much money's coming in and where it's going. And once you do that, it actually gives you the structure to where you can direct the dollars to the best use. You can look at your priorities, you can look at what your needs are, and then you can solve any problem that's in your way. So the budgeting picture is totally critical, and you can do it easily. You could write it on a piece of paper. There's many online budgeting tools to do that with. I use a particular program that is very easy to track and see where you are at any given time, but anybody really can do this. So that first, strategy is getting clarity. It's very important.
That sounds great. Yeah.
And then it also leads me to the second strategy, which is living below your means. Now, living below your means is very different than living on what you make. If you live on what you make, you spend everything. Mm-hmm. Living below your means is it automatically keeps you out of debt, and it automatically gets you to save. So the only way that you can live below your means is to really examine your priorities, is to really examine what are your needs, what are your wants, and then make the decisions to spend based on that. And again, that just follows through. If you have clarity about what you're doing, then you'll know if you live below your means. If you don't know how much you're spending and you've got credit cards going, nonstop, then you're never going to know if you live below your means.
So how do you, when it comes to credit cards, what do you advise your clients?
Actually, credit cards is something that I'll jump down to my fourth strategy, and that's avoiding debt. Okay? Avoiding debt.
All right.
And I'm going to correct myself and say avoid bad debt. Credit cards I consider bad debt because, don't get me wrong, not all debt is bad. Debt is really a financial resource if it's used widely. But credit cards is not something that is very helpful in most situations. If you've got clarity and you're planning and tracking and you're on a budget, and you're living below your means, you're not going to need credit cards. If you use a credit card, and I've got many clients who just can't live without credit cards because they use it for the miles, they use it it's easier to keep track of things. I'm fine with that as long as you pay it off. And what I encourage my clients to do is to pay it off every month, because ideally I want my clients to live in real time. If you are actually spending money based on what you have in your checking account, then you avoid all the problems that people get themselves into. So if you're going to use a credit card, instead of waiting till the end of the month, which everybody usually does, and then gets it and goes, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was this high. If you're paying it off every week, then you're being very clear about how much you've got and how much you're paying off. So the debt for credit cards becomes overwhelming because it gives people a false sense of their lifestyle and their income. If you're living using credit cards, you never have a clear parameter as to what you're spending, if you're spending within your means. So that kind of debt is really, really negative. You end up paying for your past with your future because you're struggling then to pay that credit card debt with money that you could be using for saving or for paying, for retirement. The other debt that's not bad, in my estimation, is a mortgage, is a student loan. Of course, all of those have parameters. You don't want a mortgage payment that's going to keep you in a difficult, struggling zone. You don't want to take student loans out that are going to be so huge that the career you choose won't allow you to pay for it. You need a car to get to work, but you don't buy a Mercedes if you've got an income that's a Toyota. So, not all debt is bad. but avoid credit card debt.
Okay.
And
that's clear.
And
I said, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's right. The third strategy that I have, which really ties with some of what you've been asking me, that's the emotions. My third strategy is be introspective, and it doesn't have, and I don't mean that in a very esoteric way. What I mean is that emotions and childhood baggage really drive unhealthy money behaviors. And if you can understand the emotional root of those bad habits, then that really puts you in the driver's seat. And if for anyone who doesn't understand what I mean, here's an example. If your parents maybe they were deprived as children, or maybe they just have a lot of money, but if your parents treated you with, like a king, and you had money to spare, you never had to worry about it. Your expectation in life is that you're going to have money and that you should be able to live the good life. That sounds great if you make a lot of money, but what I see often are adults who still live like they can afford anything, and they buy anything and they do anything. The problem is that their income doesn't match their spending. So these are people that end up in enormous credit card debt and financial stress and don't even realize what they're doing. So by looking back and understanding this is why I feel entitled to have this luxurious lifestyle, you can then kind of cognitively say, well, it's not appropriate for me, and I need to challenge myself to live a more modest life and put more money toward my savings. So that's a kind of emotional introspection that I'm talking about.
That sounds perfect.
And it all comes down to that. All of this comes down to my fifth strategy, which is very critical, and that is saving. We talk about what we want to do in life and not have stress around money and retirement, but if you don't save, then there's no way that you can choose the kind of life that you want. And saving isn't easy. Certainly in the beginnings of our careers, you don't have a lot, but it really is a mindset that requires you to prioritize your future over your wants, today, currently. But if you do save, then it is really your ticket to freedom. And we have to save for a few reasons. One, because we always think of savings as an emergency backup. And it is for emergencies, because we all know life happens. No one that has a dog doesn't have a big vet bill, or no one that has a car doesn't have some surprise car repair, or an illness, or any number of things that can happen. So if you don't have money in savings, and you don't plan for these things, then that expense will automatically end up on a credit card. And you think it's just a one-shot deal, but it's not necessarily so. And then you end up with this building up of credit, and then you end up in this cycle that you can't get out of. So for that point alone, the savings are important. The other piece of it is a positive thing. You want to be able to save for opportunities that arise. What if you want to change jobs? What if you want to change jobs, but you've got a month or two in between, and then you can get this spectacular job, but you have to support yourself for those 2 months. Having money in savings gives you that opportunity to make that choice. But if someone comes to you with this incredible opportunity to go on this wonderful trip, but you need to take a month off of work, you can do that if you save. So savings gives you such a freedom to make choices in your life. And of course, we all talk about retirement. Well, we all want to retire at some point, and some of us sooner than later. Mm-hmm. If you're really clear about what your spending is and your saving, then you can do what you want to do as far as your 401k or your IRA or whatever it is. If you keep putting money, starting early on, if you keep putting money in those retirement savings, that really gives you that opportunity later in life to have freedom. If you're living not below your means, but if you're living on everything that you're earning, you're really going to be stuck later on. And it's not that hard. It's not that hard because nowadays you can have, well, especially at 401k, it's just deducted from your salary. Saving, putting money in a savings account, even if you can start really small in the beginning. If you have money automatically deducted from your savings, from your paycheck, every paycheck, before you know it, you've got, a buildup of your savings. So it's a really, such a critical part of your financial health is making sure that you have those savings. So those are the, 5 strategies that, you can use, or that that your listeners can use to at least get started. Get clarity, make sure you're planning and tracking, live below your means, not on what you make, be introspective, really look at the emotions that are driving your behavior, especially if they're unhealthy behaviors causing you big, big problems, and avoid getting into debt. Even though we often, and that's not to say that if you don't need to use your credit card in an emergency that, you're a bad person. It's just try not to do that because you're sacrificing your future when you do that. And save. That's a priority. Keep saving, even if it's starting off at $20 a week or, $100, every couple months, whatever it is, keep saving because that is really, really going to give you your best chance at having a really healthy relationship with your money.
Yeah, I think people forget, not that there's too much interest being given on savings accounts today, but people have forgotten the compound interest principle, and I think they need to learn more about that.
Absolutely, and if you start young, if your listeners are at the beginning of their careers, that compound interest, even though I know now with our economy the way it's been, you don't feel like you're really making that much in savings. But over a period of years, it starts to balance out, and you see down the road that putting $1,000 in now will have a huge impact in 20 or 30 years. Mm-hmm. And even though people have a tendency to think, well, I'm not going to worry about retirement. I just keep working. I'll just keep working. You just don't know. You never know what's going to happen. You might lose your job. You might have illness. You might just get tired of working. So you really, even though it's hard to do it as a younger person, it's really, really important to plan to put money away now so that you do have that freedom later on in life.
Well, for our listeners, Resa Shore is offering a 30-minute consultation for listeners. Go to her website at yourmoneyhealth.com, which is spelled normally, yourmoneyhealth.com. Resa is in Napa, California, but she works remotely as well, whatever works for both of you. And I want to ask, Resa, what has been a lesson or advice that has stuck with you? Because I find that, even though you changed direction slightly, I changed direction slightly pretty much every other year. There's certain things that we carry with us that keep us grounded. So what has been a lesson or advice that has stuck with you?
That's a good question, Joanne. And I think the answer to that is from my own life experience. You can expect the unexpected. You never know what's going to happen. You just never know what's going to happen. And when, from a financial perspective, when you have money set aside, not that money solves all of your problems, but when you have some kind of grounding with your money, that you've got savings, that you have retirement, you've got that cushion then that actually does cushion some of the negative, unexpected things, but it gives you that freedom. So I just think saving for the unknown is a lesson that is helped me in my life, because that's actually happened. Things happen to me. You know, we all go through relationship issues or health issues, and you just never know. So that would be my answer.
Good. I appreciate that, because life moves forward and we never know what it's going to present us with, and we must be prepared as best as we can to the extent that we're capable of being. So don't forget, people, go to yourmoneyhealth.com and get a free 30-minute consultation for listeners. This is with Resa Shore, because she is a money coach. She will help you with all of these things that she talked about, spoke about, her 5 strategies: clarity, planning, living below your means, keeping out of debt, and savings, and being introspective. And I want to invite listeners as well to go to my website at askjoannevictoria.com. That's AskJoanne, Victoria, VICTORIA.com, and download your free copy of the True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. It covers most everything, and I think that you will find it informative. And please refer this podcast to your friends and to your social media people. It's important that the word gets out, that people can get educated, because one of the things I wanted to be when I decided, what do you want to be when you grow up, Joanne? I wanted to be a teacher. And I think with all of these podcast guests, including Resa Shore, especially because she's talking about something that people get very tentative about, money, these podcasts help you create the life that you want to lead. It gives you information and insights and people to contact that are there for you, and most of them will provide you either free information or a link or a free book or something. So I thank everybody for being here today. Please recommend this to Resa Shore, yourmoneyhealth.com. And this is Joanne Victoria saying goodbye for now, and I'll be back soon with another episode of the Sanity IT Project podcast. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Sanity Project podcast. Please go to askjoannevictoria.com and continue the conversation on her podcast page, and get a free copy of her book, The True Self Handbook, a guide to transform your life. That's askjoannevictoria.com. Take care, and thanks for being here.